Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online just finished adapting the entire Volume 1 content with this week's Episode 5 titled Leave the Last Battle to Me, and damn, what a finale to the first adventure with this cast. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me Gamerturk, and today I'll be going over Alternative GGO Episodes 4 and 5, answering your questions, clearing up confusions, and point out the little details here and there to keep an eye out on for the future. And considering I only need to go through 2 episodes this time around, I feel like I can share more of my opinions along the way. Episode 4, Death Game, takes us back to where Episode 1 left us off at, in the first squad jam as LLENN takes out the pro team Narrow and celebrates accordingly when M confirms the remaining 2 resigned. With that, we are provided the information that only 3 teams remain, MMTM and SHINC, both teams that we could see in the opening if you watched my first recap video. Right after the opening, we hear more about M and how he basically is a living, breathing GPS, as I explained in my What is Alternative GGO video, followed by LLENN coming to conclusion that his name, M, must be standing in for map or mapper, which makes sense on a surface level, but keep an eye out on M's reaction to this. It's not really confirmation on his end. It most certainly is a response of being somewhat ashamed of the real answer. Also, he keeps hinting about the 1 hour mark as early as this instance, which is gonna be important at the end of this episode. After looking at the satellite scan and realizing SHINC was about 5 kilometers away in the desert area, and while MMTM was closer, they were still beyond the lake that they would need to go around, M decided the best course of action was to move southwards next to the lake, considering they wouldn't be able to reach any of the teams by normal means before the next scan in 10 minutes anyways. While running southwards, we see LLENN happily humming a song. The song she is humming is, not surprisingly, a Kanzaki Elsa song called Step Step, but the melody she is humming is actually a double reference here. You see, the melody used in Kanzaki Elsa's Step Step is actually a melody from Mussorgsky's Promenade, a Russian composer who lived back in 1800s, which ties back to that time when LLENN mentioned she enjoyed classical music back in episode 2, so a neat little detail that they paid attention to when composing Elsa's Step Step. But of course, what comes next needs no explanation, so it's more opinion time. The incoming team is MMTM. They are one of the best teams participating in Squad Jam, as I mentioned in my previous video. Being as good as they are, naturally something special was needed, and damn did M deliver. I was constantly being teased about this moment for a very long time back in the SAO Wikia Discord server, and this instance was the reason why Gishimenas told me that M was a turtle sniper back when I was creating my Alternative GGO video, which led to me taking it a little bit too literally and made me assume he was actually sniping turtles or something. Needless to say, this is obviously miles ahead of what I had in mind. How M managed to go full offensive with such a defensive tactic was marvelous. And while the anime explains this situation quite nicely, some people still are confused as to how such a skilled team made such a foolish mistake of staying out in the open. The important bit here is they simply didn't know. The anime explains the no bullet line tactic M is using by not keeping his finger on the trigger and thus not activating the game's bullet circle assist. So while MMTM members know M has a sniper, they do not know when and where he is gonna strike, which is something they were actually counting on during this encounter. And to add to this, this approach is actually highly risky since it is incredibly hard to be on target without the aim assist the game offers you, and it is fairly a new tactic following Kirito's success with his Photon Sword deflecting bullets based on the bullet's line. So certain people developed this approach to put sword users at a significant disadvantage by simply avoiding a bullet line from being shown. You may ask why the rest of the team didn't take any precautions after the first 2 members died. Well, this was explained more thoroughly in the novels. It's simply because they just do not know that M does not use the aim assist. They simply do not know that there are no bullet lines to dodge. The important thing is, you can only see the bullet line if it is aimed at your general proximity, and the only 2 members that realized that they couldn't see any bullet lines are already dead at this point and cannot warn the rest of the team, leading the others to not realize that there are no lines to dodge in the first place until it's actually too late. And of course at the end of the encounter, LLENN essentially venting at the last guy that is alive by just unloading her P90 on him is just beautiful, what can I say? What better way to relieve your stress than putting all those bullets through someone while wearing a pink rabbit hat? There's also small confusion as to why she shot 3 separate volleys at the dead guy. I'll be honest here, the novels don't mention her shooting 3 separate volleys, and I don't think she shot 3 volleys either. To me it looks more like it was the same volley, just repeated from 3 different angles. You know, think of it like when Kirito dramatically blocks something, the anime immediately cuts through multiple different angles of how he blocked with cool shots just to emphasize the moment. I imagine this is a similar scene here. Keep in mind that this is just my assumption since there is no real evidence to suggest either of the way, just take it however you want it. But of course after this scene we get the explanation about the bullet lines with Pitohui and LLENN, and you'll see LLENN once again holding her hand up when she wants to ask a question similar to how she did back in episode 3. While the anime does pay attention to the detail, this is actually kind of a running gag in the novels between the two. But of course, when adapting something into a different form, you may not always have the time to explain everything properly. But here, we hear Pito say that she invited a friend with real-life shooting experience to test manual aiming, and it's pretty obvious that she means M at this point, especially when you remember his extensive knife training at the end of episode 3, which we're gonna get back to. I'm honestly surprised the anime went so much into detail explaining how this exploit works. They could have easily skipped over it, but instead they thoroughly went with its details, as well as dropping more hints towards who M actually is, as well as what his friendship with Pitohui is. And of course it's just badass to see this quiet guy outright take out 5 people with 6 shots and set up the last one for an easy kill. I'd say this is by far one of my favorite moments in the anime, but then the episode just continues to deliver. It is time for the next scan, and this is where things go south for Team LM as they realize they are being targeted as the scan goes on. I've seen many people mention that it was stupid to remain out in the open. Yeah, sure, maybe it was, but try remembering the circumstances here. They had just taken care of MMTM, M was in the process of packing up, the nearest building you can see is at least 100 meters away, the scan was already starting, that already lasts a very short amount of time anyway, and the closest team was a long way away during the last scan, so they really did not have much of a choice here than to have the scan go out in the open. Missing the scan would have been much more dangerous for the next 10 minutes without knowing where their opponents would be. Meanwhile, once again, we see M mentioning the hour mark. But surprise surprise, Team SHINC had already taken place at the closest place they could take cover in, and LLENN gets shot and they have to run away. And I don't think I need to explain how LLENN and M survived, as the anime already explains it, but I have to say, I am really glad how they are using M's knowledge to explain all these little details that otherwise a majority of viewers would miss out on, and that includes me as well. When you're dealing with such small nuances, it's very important to let your audience know the difference between what keeps LLENN alive and what would have killed her instead. I understand that some people may not be satisfied with the luck explanation, but let's be real here. Is luck not involved on a gun's accuracy cone? Even when you're using a sniper, there is so many variables that go into where you aim and where the bullet actually lands. In this case, luck is in no way an unreasonable explanation. Also, it is a great detail that they actually showed LLENN use a medkit 3 times here, considering a medkit only heals about 30% of your health in GGO. It's details like these that makes a gamer like me happy. But of course the twist at the end of episode 4, I really wanted to make a video after that moment, but I forced myself to wait till volume 1 was concluded. And this ending actually threw many people off, as most people don't expect extensive post-credit scenes, but we got an amazing and action-oriented one right here. It's just a beautiful scene where the unexpected turn of events resolve into LLENN having the upper hand and making all those training scenes with M pay off, with LLENN using her knowledge to enable the safety on M's gun. And damn, I really love the music in this series. It's not the Yuki Kajiura of the main series, but god, that starring Trancer guy is doing an absolutely amazing job with the soundtrack. And of course M's breakdown and LLENN's face. No matter what I say here, it won't be enough to command 3 Hz for how awesome and on point their facial expressions are. And of course the question here is, what was written on that letter? And episode 5, titled Leave the Last Battle to Me, is there to explain. As the letter by Pito explains, M is not allowed to die in this competition. Whether you take Pito's threats here serious or not is not really the issue. It's quite clear that at the very least M does, and he has his reasons that we will learn in the second half of the series. But of course, being the incredible planner he is, he saw a loophole in this plan and realized by resigning after an hour was a safe way to go. Remember back in episode 3 when M mentioned his talk with Pito? When having that discussion, M specifically mentioned that he would resign if LLENN were to die in combat, and while we don't hear him say anything about Pito agreeing to this, all around it is heavily implied that she actually did. At this point, M mentions that Pito is obsessed about the death game, which is a reference to her crazy nature and the way she admires the original SAO and her plan to push M, as I have mentioned in the previous video. You may be wondering why LLENN does not seem concerned by the fact that Pito would literally kill M. The thing is, her face makes it very clear that she does not really seem to believe M's explanation here, but just decides to let it slip in order to formulate a course of action before SHINC arrives on their location. She literally says that the scan has finished a while ago and that they can be close, followed by whatever towards M. And of course the rest of the episode is just one giant action-packed set piece. I really love the energy and frame pacing in these action sequences. They really do a great job shifting into slow motion just at the right moments with more fluid movement. The moment she encounters the first SHINC member, I just love these kinds of scenes that catch me by surprise and keep me on the edge of my seat. It was great to watch LLENN dominate the scene by cleverly improvising and how the SHINC member used his gun to block a bullet. Also, it has to be mentioned here, Studio 3Hz paid enough attention to detail that you can see the sniper missing her perfect aim by only 3 frames as LLENN suddenly bursts forward there. As LLENN is taking a break after managing to run away, we see the 2 plasma grenades she has when getting off of the hovercraft, as well as the knife that M gave her to use. And right then and there we get a clear sign that LLENN is not a strategist, she is just good when it comes to improvising, as she gets lured into a trap by SHINC deceiving her. And while we can see the bullet lines in these shots, remember that LLENN cannot see them. Those lines are just for us, the audience, to see this is actually a trap, clashing with Pito's speech at the same time. Brilliantly using one of her remaining grenades, she manages to escape, but once she does, it kind of becomes obvious. You can't really win a game of Fortnite by constantly running away, can you? And then the most bizarre thing happens. P-chan comes to life. Well, not really. It's natural that you would have questions about this. It's not elaborated in the novels either, but considering Karen's isolated mentality, it is not unlikely that this is caused by her mind essentially generating an imaginary friend in a case where she feels truly alone, and also is a sign as to how much she cares about P-chan that her mind considers it a friend, which is, as you can probably bring the pieces together, is a build-up for an awesome moment. But I wish I could share the clips from this episode without endangering my channel. The sound of LLENN's VA is absolutely amazing in these crazy moments. But this all leads up to the final encounter with SHINC as LLENN dodges the bullet Matrix style with a crazy laugh and going on full assault now that she realized that was the only way. At this point, action never stops as 2 of the SHINC members that were next to boss are taken out. LLENN gets hit, rolling down a cliff, getting saved by M feeling guilty about what he has done previously. This last battle is outright brutal that you kind of forget they're just playing a game. Boss just pins LLENN down, shoots at her heart multiple times, that pops up an immortal object pop-up, which is where I take you back to the beginning of this episode, where LLENN calmly puts her satellite scanner to her left chest pocket for safekeeping. Again, mad props to 3Hz, not skipping a vital detail in a scene where they could have just overlooked and explained it afterwards, but they went ahead and actually animated her, putting it in there all the way back there. Boss missing 2 more shots in point blank range, effectively emptying the magazine, while seemingly not realistic on a surface level, can actually be explained by the bullet circle mechanic. Remember that GGO gauges your mental state and makes your bullet circle react accordingly. At this point, Boss lost multiple members against the Pink Devil, 2 of them very recently, 2 grenades exploded on her face, and she has just gone through an event where she thought LLENN was unkillable, so obviously she is not in one of the most stable moments of her life here, and neither is her aim assist. Same can be said for LLENN. As she breaks free and retaliates, she was in a position of certain death, so a panic shot here most certainly does not have the same accuracy as situations where she felt truly confident and in control. The next scene is just brilliant. The way they use the cliche at the moment, and LLENN being absolutely in denial with the most perfect delivery I have seen from her so far, despite there being so many great ones in general. And the amazing payoff to the 2 incredible build-ups from before, Peach-chan blocking the bullets as an object, LLENN going berserk and pulling out the knife, doing exactly what M told her to do at the end of episode 3, without hesitation and ultimate brutality, dashing under Eva's legs, cutting them both from inside, forcing her to her knees, rushing towards her, letting go of the knife initially as M suggested, which you can even see in the couple of frames where Eva pushes LLENN's hands down, that the knife is actually no longer in her hand at that moment, and the knife just brilliantly comes down afterwards. She catches it with one hand, at which point you can even hear how amazed Boss is based on her laugh, followed by LLENN cutting her throat with a single dash. I don't even know what to say here but narrating the amazingness of this entire sequence. As I said earlier, the energy of the animation, knowing when to speed up and when to pause, when to slow-mo, when to hide, when to reveal, doing all that while paying attention to all these details is such an enjoyment for me, and words don't really cut it at this point. And of course, in the background, an amazing song by Kanzaki Elsa singing VA. Reo Na's amazing performance just tops this amazing sequence off. And of course, we still have the final member of SHINC, who's using a sniper without a scope due to M destroying it earlier, which naturally affects her aiming here. Once she has a final showdown with M, in a scene very reminiscent of Shinon's sniper duel against Deathgun in Phantom Bullet arc, sealing the deal for SHINC. And of course, M is not shot by the sniper without a scope, but he still took enough precautions to ensure his safety by wearing his backpack on his chest rather than his back, making sure that the shield would do its job, which answers the people who thought M had too much of a change of heart here. He simply didn't. He stayed hidden for the entire duration of this episode until he was certain of their victory, and even then taking precautions for his survival, prioritizing taking out the sniper scope at the beginning of the battle, effectively neutralizing the only gun that has a chance of shooting him down from that distance, and even then going above and beyond and wearing his shield on his chest to remain safe, in case the scopeless sniper still managed to be somewhat on target. At this point, M, being the ultimate strategist, had absolutely no reason to be scared and shy away from the one-sided battle here. And of course, LLENN's reaction is just hilarious. Do I need to say anything about the faces here? And then there's also a lovely post-credit scene, the little girls being revealed as SHINC, as I have talked about in my previous episode, based on the obvious hints that were being provided. And of course, the height difference here is explained by Karen being above average and these girls being high schoolers in a gymnastics club, which makes them under average. But it's just a beautiful ending to Volume 1 adaptation of Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online. Next week we have an episode 5.5, a recap episode apparently, and afterwards we will be starting with the adaptation of Volume 2. The mystery behind M and Pitohui remains for now, and Miyu Shinohara aka Fukajiro will be joining the fun in the second arc of Alternative GGO. And last question I want to answer is regarding the LLENN vs Boss scene that I saw on our anime, as to why Boss's brutal kick did not kill off LLENN in that instance. The important thing is, GGO is a gun-based game. Unarmed combat does not really exist to deal damage, especially considering when torso is the most guarded body part of your body in this game. In contrast, when Boss hits LLENN's hand with her gun stock, 1. She is actually using a weapon as a melee option that has a damage multiplier, and 2. she is actually hitting a part of LLENN's body where the only armor piece is a thin glove on her hand. So while not being a vital body part, since it is using an actual weapon to damage an unguarded part of the body, makes a huge difference in this case. I hope that clears the confusion you may have. And with that, it's time for me to wrap up this video. I know these videos are kind of long than my usual content, but I hope that you are enjoying the different type of content here. If you do, make sure to hit that like and subscribe buttons, hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload more videos like this. If you enjoy my content in general, do consider supporting me on patreon.com/Gamerturk and help me have more creative freedom to use actual clips from the anime without being, scared of getting demonetized, because a lot of effort goes into these videos. Anyways, a huge shout out to my only patron Tiffany for directly supporting my channel for 5 months now. You can also find me on Twitter at Gamerturk95 and on facebook.com/Gamerturk. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.